Well, Robert, welcome for this Café com Fascia. It's a program that we have doing since 2016. And today we invite Paula Mattoli from Rolfing Institute, a Brazilian Rolfing Association, as well as Fabiana Silva from Círculo. You know her. So let me introduce you. Professor Robert is a Rolfer as well, Feldenkrais teacher. And since many years ago, she starts to study fascia and introduce it, or the first one who others organized the first fascia congress, research congresses in 2007. Since there, he is still continue to organize this research congresses and conferences as well. Like today, he still continue to program many events like Connect. I will show you something here just to inform you. So this is Café com Fascia. And Café com Fascia present fascia in concert. So we are talking about the fascia, and we are thinking about this. And here we can see how fascia could be organized, but we can see inside the nervous, vascular systems, muscle systems, and the envelopments of fascia. So we are talking about a little bit more about this. And we invite Fabiana from Círculo, Paula Mattoli from Associação Brasileira de Rolfing, and me as well, Universidade da Fascia. And Robert are organizing the 30th Congress Connected Conference. They are talking about connective tissues and how in the sports medicine. As well, this research is go in direction for more clinical, molecular, biomechanics aspects of this. And the objective of this connect is to put together scientists, medicine, sports, practitioners, physicians, therapeutics, trainers, as well, people having worked in the sports. So if you can go in this www.connected2021.com. If you put the connect FRS, you have 15 discounts for this. Just I will show a little bit more, but now it's just to introduce you. Robert, thank you very much for stay with us. And why? In Brazil, many people are studying a lot of fascia since many years, but when Rolfing Association brings for Brazil more about the Rolfing, speaks about fascia, then osteopathics comes, and the fascia is some aspects of our studies, our work. But in 2018, you are here, Rolfing Association as well, Hospital das Clínicas, organized the first meeting about the fascia. And in September, Fabiana did as well in Porto Alegre, one seminaries of fascia. And 2019, we have more advanced in Brazil, like fascia experience, like others. And last year, the first World Fascia Online Congress, as well as we did the fascia movement sports. In all of them, you are present. So and of course, you have written many books and you organize many things about the fascia. So my question is, why you go in the direction of fascia in your researches? Why? Because you are a biologist, you are a psychologist, you work with the Rolfing and the Feldenkrais, but one moment you choose about the fascia. Why? This is my first question for you.
Well, Johannes, thank you very much. But I think you know the answer as well as me, because there is no other tissue in the human body that is as fascinating for the researchers and also for the people who apply the research. And this was first in the 2007 Congress, was more focused on manual therapy. So the osteopaths, they knew that fascia was important, but also the rolfers. But now, since the 2009 International Congress, we know that fascia also is very important for sports and movement. Yeah. And that is now very exciting. So in this Congress that we are going to talk about and that you have attended before, the focus is the role of fascial connective tissue that includes tendons, ligaments, joint capsules on people who apply movement of Pilates, yoga, rolfing movement, sports people. And that is a very exciting topic. So that's why.
Wonderful. Thank you. And one question, big question. How many time or how many for your week, or how many times do you practice your fascial fitness personal training?
Now, that is a good question. Because one of our keynote presenters that I look very much forward at this Connective Tissue Congress at the end of March will be Daniel Lieberman. And he is comparing the way how we modern people do physical activity with the way how people who still live as gatherers and hunters. And he tells us they are not doing any exercise. So when he goes up jogging, when he stays with them, they look at him and they think they are nuts because they are not going jogging. They are going hunting. They are working on the farms, etc. So yeah. I think it is a crazy compromise, but a happy compromise for me to go out and do exercises. But it may be healthier to do physical work related with our work of going from A to B or climbing a tree or pushing the children up, etc., and working on the farms. So that could be more healthy. So your answer, yes, I do exercise because I'm a modern crazy person. But and then I do it 2 times or 3 times a week, particularly in the home office time, where you need to get out.
Yes.
But I also try to do it as part of my daily living. So when I do something on the floor, I try to use my hip joints more happily. If I lift something up, I do it more with a bounce and a swing. So that means I can also do it daily.
Good, nice. So now I would like to invite Fabiana Silva. Fabiana Silva is our friend, you know. She is a part of Fascia Research Society. It's a member now and work in the Fascia Society. And she's a CEO of Circle. And she has been working a lot in Brazil to improve the fascia and to spread out the knowledge about the fascia in Brazil as well, and many other countries in South America. And thank you very much, Fabiana, for coming with us. So this, you can go.
So thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me. And I'm always says that Professor Schleip is like an idol for me. Some people have idols like football players or musicians, and for me, Professor Schleip is a type of idol because he is always sharing and working to spread the knowledge around the world. So, Professor Schleip, I'd like to ask you, what do you think is the most important thing for a practitioner knows about fascia and inflammation?
That is a wonderful question. Before this upcoming Congress, my answer will be probably based on the research of Helen Lorgever. And that is a couple of years ago. And there, one of the most important things was that static, long stretches for several minutes tend to have a strong anti-inflammatory effect. And that would speak for yin yoga practices more than for happy bouncing as part of an exercise, if you want to have an anti-inflammatory effect. But with the Connective Tissue Congress coming up, I know I will probably have to change my answer afterwards. Yeah, and one thing could be related to nutrition, because we have Keith Barr as one of the presenters, and he did recently more detailed research on bone broth or collagen peptides or on gelatin nutrition. So all of them have to do with collagen, cooked collagen as a supplement. And I think he will tell us that that has a profound effect in terms of anti-inflammatory effect on the ground substance, but only if you take it together with vitamin C. But we will hear afterwards.
Okay. And can be combined with the exercise, right?
That will be my question to Keith Barr.
Oh, okay.
If you can just have the right nutrition and not do exercise, or whether you need to do both. And I think you need to do both, but we'll have to wait until he does his presentation.
Yes, will be amazing.
And also I want to hear from Daniel Lieberman, what are the inflammatory markers of the gatherer and hunters during different seasons? So they are active, not for the whole day often, they are very passive, but then when they work, they are very active. And I want to hear how that is affecting the inflammation. That's a modern fancy world in the scientific world. As we get older, as we age, we have a more pro-inflammatory milieu in our ground substance. And I want to hear from Daniel Lieberman. Is that also happening in the gatherer and hunters who don't do exercise, but they have physical activity?
Yes. And you published last year an article with Larissa Signorin, that's a Brazilian.
Yes, thank you very much for connecting me with her.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you found that when we do some fascial work, we can have a more, not just localized effect, but a systemical effect,
Yeah,
right?
that was very impressive. So she showed that in animals, that with a myofascial release massage, which looked very similar to rolfing to me, but she had learned and developed that by herself. I was very impressed. So she did this kind of myofascial manipulation method that she had developed herself from different teachers. And she applied that, and she clearly showed it has an anti-inflammatory effect on the lumbar dorsal fascia. And that is very important, because low back pain, the majority is not coming from the discs, is not coming from the muscles. It seems to be coming from the connective tissue. And then an anti-inflammatory effect could be very profound.
Yes, amazing. Thank you.
So let me introduce Paula again. No, Paula?
Hello, Robert.
Yeah.
Let me give you a hug.
Yes, no, so I cannot begin this talk without just saying that you were my first teacher. No, you were the one who brought me into the field of rolfing, and I am very honored and proud of it, because I think that the way you brought me there was with a dimension and a perspective that was not only technical, no. And when I hear you talking still now, I I got happy to see that, and this value, to understand that fascia is a way of, looking for people, for quality, and maybe this is a value I learned to carry from our teaching. So I need to honor this in
nice.
first. No, thank you. And how this dimension is important, as you were saying. So when you think therapeutically, when you want to work with in a clinical and more processual approach, all dimensions of living experiences, they are fundamental. So we know that fascia is a way, but through fascia you can assess emotions, you can assess patterns that are from the nervous systems. There is a bigger field there. So my first question is how the seeds that I received there in the beginning are still present, and how they influence the way you do your research and the way you present your research. How this can still be, how it's still present, and if there is space for this kind of inquiry in the scientific field.
Thank you very much, Paula. This is so nice. I think you Brazilians have the secret for my inspiration in your hands very well, and that's the sense of community.
Yeah.
And Paula, that was so palpable in the very first training where we met.
Yes.
It's not a hierarchy. That how old are you? Then you must be senior, and you are a newcomer. Please be quiet and keep your opinion down. So it's not a church. It's not a military regimen, with hierarchical level. It's a bubbling community, and everybody has something to share, and nobody is right and nobody is wrong. We look at the miracle of human movement. And being born, incarnated in a human body, we look at it from different perspectives, and we share and inspire each other. And that's what I like. So the Brazilian community, whenever I'm there, movement is a much more important perspective. And you are not so crystallized, you're not so church-like as we Germans. So we want to make a fasciology in Germany, where you get a PhD and then you do a master degree. But this field is so connecting of people, and that is so what is inspiring me. And you can do that so easily with the fascia, because with the muscles you are able to cut them into parts and say, this is this muscle, and now you do this movement. But if you focus on fascia, there is no parts. The whole body is one. And the other one is, if I see you Brazilian people dancing, it is an extensioning movement. So if you want to explore fascia, you are extending the body in order to feel it. So you're not compressing it. And that is so nice in this conference and in everybody around it. It is about extending our human experience, our knowledge about fascia, but also the way how I can breathe, how I can swing my legs. It's about reaching out more.
And it's so amazing, Robert, because when I was hearing you say, how the beauty, of the intention connected to the expression ultimately, how is it that a true gesture, when the gesture comes from something that is part of your integration, and from this, I have a curiosity, because we've been working a lot more with psychobiology and anchoring a lot the work on the nervous system. And I know that you know many things on that field. So I am very curious also about and how this field of making this connection. I also found a beautiful quote from Ida. It's not the case now to quote her, where she in the early 70s she had this intuition that if a baby eats something that he doesn't like, his fascia will answer automatically. So I would like to know if you can talk a little bit about this, about nervous system, fascia, and how is this interaction? Thank you.
Then I can talk for hours because that
Yes, okay.
the expertise. No, Johannes will watch us because that is the expertise. Let me just push here of our laboratory, and we just published that a year ago. After 10 years of research, we showed that fascial stiffness is very intimately regulated not by our somatic nervous system that changes the tonus of the muscles, and that you can voluntarily direct in milliseconds, lift the arm, put it down, but it's more regulated by our autonomic nervous system. And there we are with your emotions. And so this is not the main topic of this upcoming conference, but it's a topic of my life. And in the conversation with the clients, I think it's a very powerful key to see how fascial stiffness and pro-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory influences, probably also nitric oxide, is very much linked with emotions. And that is also like a smoothener, not only of the artery walls, but also of the fascia in general. So we have many links between autonomic nervous system, emotions, and fascial properties.
And movements and responses.
Yeah,
No?
yeah.
That's great, Robert. And thank you. So nice to be here with you.
Yeah.
Robert, thank you. This is amazing. I know that, for example, Daniel Lieberman will participate in the Connecti as well. I have been reading something about BA. But since 2 years ago, I started to work in a study fascia with the elderly.
Yeah.
And my research is related to this. And the last year, we start to study more stretching, dynamic stretching. We compare dynamic and passive stretching for elderly. But in the dynamic, it's one thing is start to become with our group. They start to changing their feeling for food.
Oh,
we try to understand this because something could be happening their organized their brain sensation about the nutritional aspects of it inside the body. This is my first hypothesis.
Wow.
Because probably that we need to investigate a little bit more, but because the fascia could start to move again, so the nutrition aspects could be sensing inside the body, and something change in the persons that they try to change their nutrition and change the hydration. We recollect this information, we are trying to understand it. So as well, so one question is, because I know that you have been studying elders as well, other things, how you can, how you understand the eldering related fascia, but we know that maybe some things happen during their lives that this fascia is related to his history, because of course if you train the fascia can change, but how we can understand the fascia and the lifestyles and elderly. This this line of life. How do you think about this fashion? Lifestyles and elderly.
Well, I applaud you, Johannes. This is such an important topic. The more wealthy we are, the more healthy we are, the more decades we spend at an older age. And there I'm looking forward to this conference because probably now the main method for research is no longer ultrasound. That was at the 2017 Congress, the main research method. But now it's ultrasound elastography. That was not refined enough at the last Connective Tissue Congress in 2017. But now elastography has gotten so good that you can really do reliable research. And just a couple of months ago, they published a study that the movement limitations in older people come from different connective tissues than in younger people. So let me push here. I hope I'm still connected. So in younger people, if you have a limitation in your upper ankle joint and you cannot squat on the ground because your dorsiflexion is limited, the restricting movement is in the gastrocnemius, soleus, so the posterior calf, muscles, and connective tissue. So it means in them you can work locally, you can stretch locally, and foam rolling locally would make sense. In older people, if you stretch the calf muscles, almost nothing happens to the ankle joint. But if you do foam rolling or stretching on the sciatic nerve, all the way up in the pelvis, you get 15 degrees. And with the elastography they showed, so the tissue that you stretch gets softer, but not the other ones. And if you stretch the sciatic nerve, in older people, you get ankle flexion mobility. So most likely the nerve bundles have become hardened, or their environment doesn't allow the nerves to slide. We don't know yet which factor is so important. And that means foam rolling in older people, stretching in older people, also rolfing in older people should be different than in a 20-year-old or 15-year-old client. I love it because we didn't know that 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. No. It's amazing. Thank you.
So you're really excited. There will be a lot of ultrasound elastography studies. And 3 years ago, I didn't trust them because there were so many artifacts in it, but now it really gets reliable and good.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Yeah.
And Professor Schleip, thinking on nerves and the vascular system, what is the relationship with fascia and the circulatory system, like the sponge effect? How this will be talked at the Connect Congress?
I think that will be a hot topic. One term that you know very well is called microcirculation. Mm-hmm. And that is the very small arteries and venules in the connective tissue. So not the big arteries in your organs and in the heart, but the small ones. And that seems to be a major factor for health in general, how active your microcirculation is, and particularly in sports. So probably Michael Kier will discuss a study that they did in Copenhagen, where they had almost 200 students from college who were running several times per week. And they followed them for 2 years to find out which of them is prone for Achilles tendinopathy, which is quite common in runners. So like 15 to 20% of runners suffer from Achilles overuse tendinopathy, which is more than in couch potatoes. And in this study, they wanted to find out what is the factor that predicts whether you get it or you don't get it. And they thought it may be the foot position or the running style or the body weight, but it was none of that. One factor was gender, because women have a softer connective tissue, of course, but the other was microcirculation after running. So as a healthy person, if you go running, the microcirculation, and that's a new tool that you need to study it, in the paratenon, not so much in the tendon, but in the connective tissue around the Achilles tendon is increased. And that's what you want to have, because if you have that, you are immunized against Achilles tendinopathy. And if you don't have that, you get it twice as likely as people who have it. So now everybody is looking, what can I do after running to increase microcirculation, or maybe also doing running? So now we are looking at vibratory tools. That will be a topic, of course. Many people in sports are using metal tools to rub, or temperature treatment. or cupping. So in sports, all of these methods make sense, primarily, not exclusively, but primarily to increase microcirculation in the connective tissue, and particularly in the paratenon around the tendons.
Oh, amazing. And maybe flossing too can do the same.
So yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. I don't know how common that is. Maybe thanks to you, it is more common in Brazil now.
Yes.
It's quite popular here in Germany in the athletic field. So we have several people who are active in the athletic field. We have a doctor presenting there who is the main coach and medical doctor for one of the leading soccer clubs here in Germany. And he teaches his sports people, but also their therapists, to do a lot with the flossing. And maybe you can explain, but people may know it. So you restrict the blood circulation, and also you do some movement where you increase the need for oxygen, and then you open the tendinous restriction and the blood comes in. So that is a general principle in sports. You put a mild stress, so you kind of half suffocate the oxygen supply to the connective tissue, and then you open it. And of course, then the breathing rate or the oxygen intake is increased afterwards.
Yes. Yes. Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. And let me appreciate you, Fabiana, for the nice collaboration that we started in the last year. And I love it. So you are a very good collaborator. I think you should move to Germany because in our group, we have the slogan, if you want to understand connective tissue as a networking organ, you have to become a good networker. And you are doing that very well.
Okay. Maybe next year, who knows?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Let me show one thing just for, let me see if it's possible. No. I would like to invite people for connecting. So, Paula, it is your time now. Thank you. You can go.
Yeah, no, I'm okay. I was listening, and I think it's interesting, what Robert was talking about performance, and then it came back for me again, the coach potatoes.
Yeah.
All the ordinary people, and also as you were saying in the beginning, people who really has a body use, a use of the body that is more directly organized towards a clarity on the action. So it's not doing as an exercise or as a training, but for example, the worker who does the hammer every day. So do you have researches on that? And there are differences in the way you have lesions, the kind of lesions and the kind of tissue you find.
A new topic, I'm sure that term will be used during the conference. They call it one-sports injuries. And there is new research on that. I didn't hear that term 3 or 4 years ago, but in the United States, a lot of studies are coming up that people who only practice one athletic sport, they are much more prone to overuse injuries than people who study 2 or 3 kind of sports. So if you are a mother and you have a son who is very talented, you may consider only focusing on this one sport, because then he will become famous and he will become a millionaire. Like Michael Schumacher, he became a millionaire by focusing on one sport and then becoming one of the best. Michael Schumacher was also very good in table tennis, but he was smart enough, but you can also think maybe stupid enough, that he said, I focus on the sports where I have a chance to belong to the best in the world. And money-wise, that is intelligence. But health-wise, that is stupid. It would be better if you have 2 or 3 different sports, then you don't get a medal, but you will be happy and healthy for the rest of your life, because you are using the body a little bit more to the way how Daniel Lieberman were reporting us, how the gatherers and hunters that he spends a lot of time with in Africa to study their fascia, to study their movement. They are also working, but they are not doing one work for the whole year. So I think that is very relevant, that we include variety. And we Germans, if you do a sports, you learn exactly how to row in the middle and put your here so that you have the most, and you become a German machine, and you become stronger and stronger if you row. And I think we should teach our children not to become a machine, but that you do it this way, and then you row a little bit to the left, and then you do it with the breathing. So you vary with it. And I think that is a strong application. So yes, we need to do exercise, but we should vary more. And if we do sports, don't overemphasize on the medals and on the ranking in the international, because performance sports where you're trying to win a medal is the opposite of moving for health. It's almost the opposite. If you do sports because you love to be happy and healthy, you will vary, you will do many sports. But if you do sports in order to become number 1 or 3 in the world, you know you are doing something unhealthy.
Thank you. So ultimately is also this the capacity of adaptability to relate to different stimulus without losing ultimately an inner sense of who I am, of balance. No, and so this capacity, this is a, let's say, is a fascia flexibility. My English sometimes is not good. Okay, thank you, Robert. Yeah.
So I think we are all required to inspire our clients how to move differently. And music can help, gadgets can help, because if you have an object in your hand, you move different than you have an open hand. So all these little tools that come out on the market, you could say, I don't need them, but that's not the question whether you need them. Does it inspire you to move differently? And yes, if you have a bicycle, you will use it very different. And if you swim with gloves, it's very different than without gloves. And if you dance with a kettlebell, it will be very different. So I think we are all asked to consider how can we use this human body in a dancing, in a sports way, playing with children. I go with my groups now to a children playground, and we become monkeys by swinging upside down and putting our feet up and swinging and hanging and bouncing. And we invent new exercises. And I think this is totally the way how we should continue to look together. How can we use our human body in ways that we used to use them when we were children, and also that our monkey forefathers used them and the gatherer and hunters used them. So maybe we also need to look more for movement rituals where you are not having chairs, but where you were squatting, like in capoeira, you have more of the squatting positions. Mm-hmm. Because the gatherer and hunters, I'm very much looking forward to Daniel Lieberman. He will tell us how many hours per week these people are squatting. And then we will compare that, how many hours I have my hip joint flexed in a squatting position, and then how that affects our hip joints, to what degree hip degeneration. So I hope all of us, we will get over 90 and live pain-free. But many of us, we will spend the last few years with an artificial hip joint. You know, you look around, the people who know who are over 90, I would think half of them have an artificial hip joint, and it works quite well in most of them. But monkeys, when they get old, they do not have hip replacement because they don't need it unless they grow up in a zoo where they cannot move appropriately. So if you prevent them to move in a healthy monkey-like fashion, then the hip joint degenerates. And that will be one of the questions. If we practice more monkey squatting positions in the geriatric home, will we make the orthopedic surgeons jobless because nobody needs any more hip replacement? So that will be a good question.
Yeah, and it has to go together with the laughing and with the fun.
Oh, the laughing is very interesting. Yeah.
With the real, no, the intention.
Yeah, and the playfulness.
Yeah, the playfulness maybe is one of the, thank you.
Some people are not so interested in health. They are interested in beauty. I know some people. So they look in the mirror and they say, oh, I don't like what I see. You know, I look like my old mother now. I used to be a charming little Robert, but now I have all these wrinkles. And they ask you, what can I do? And they consider going to a surgeon. And the wrinkles in the face, but also the wrinkles on your cellulite thigh have not to do much with the muscles, but it has to do with the superficial fascia and the dense fascia underneath. And then in the face, the question is, how can you get a younger, more elastic connective tissue in your face? And people have been designing exercises, and static exercises are not so good. So it should be bouncing exercises. So then people ask, how can I do bouncing exercises in my face? And the answer is laughing. So if you make people laughing, so if you laugh, you stretch your mouth and your eyes more than in an exercise. So this is like swinging your leg or your arm all the way up. So if we spend time with children and we make them laugh or make grimaces, look, and you do that for 5 minutes, look afterwards in the mirror, and you see that you look 10 years younger. So maybe you and I, Paula, have to market laughing as a fascial exercise, that nobody is allowed to laugh without a certificate and payment to us as an anti-aging treatment.
No, we'll sell more than Botox.
Yeah. Well, many people in Germany, they are taking hyaluron injections in the face.
Yes.
It costs a lot, but it does have an effect.
Yes.
But we will have Paula Stecko. Thank you for reminding me about her. She will be a keynote presenter. And she and her brother have researched where you can get hyaluron produced in your own body. If you inject it, it is quite good for a couple of months, and then it's broken down. But she found out we have our inner pharmacy, and they are specific cells which are called fascia cells, or fasciacytes. And they don't produce collagen very well, but they are very good in producing hyaluron. And now the question is, how can you tell your fasciacytes to produce more hyaluron? Because that would save you a lot of money in not needing the external injections. And I think laughing most likely is the most effective treatment, because she showed recently, she will definitely share that some fascial tissue have more hyaluron density than others. And if you look which ones have a higher density, it is tissues like the retinaculum, where you have a lot of local shearing motions. Let me see. So it would be something like this, a lot of shearing motion. And other fascia where you don't have local shearing, like the fascial envelope around the deltoid, between the deltoid muscle and the fascia, you don't have much sliding. Then you have very little hyaluron. Now, if you do fascial movements with your face and you make people laugh, our prediction, but we haven't measured it, but it seems very plausible, would be that you increase the density of hyaluron to a similar degree as you have in your retinacular. And it varies by not only a plus minus 10%, it factors by 10 times more in tissues that have more sliding as compared to tissues that don't have much local sliding in the environment. So hyaluron is definitely a good subject.
Yeah.
So maybe the next conference will be fascial movement and beauty.
Wonderful. No, let me show for the people. I will try to do this. So for all the peoples, I think that I was speaking okay. And this is the next day, Connected 2021. You can find this, put the www, Connect 2021. Then you can go in the different, you'll find different aspects of that will happen in Congress. For example, now we are studies about anatomy and the others. So let me show that you have workshops there, for many teachers, different teachers. Some of them is here, that you can choose one to do a workshop, practical workshops. And there are in the Congress. Let me show. Oops. What's going on? Go away. So sorry, but yeah, all the people are invited to go to the Connect and 21 in March, 26, 27. Okay, you're going to go there, and if you go to the circle, you can find Fabiana Silva. As well, you can go to Universidade da Fascia. You have a coupon as well, and I will show again another one. You can go here. www, Connect 21. Then you use Connecti, FRS. You can find a coupon for 15% discount for you, okay? Professor Robert.
Thank you very much for
your
membership to this Congress.
Yeah.
So anybody who is interested in movement, Pilates, Rolfing movement, yoga, athletics, this is the event. It only happens every 4 years. And then we will take this knowledge for the next 3-4 years and apply it to our work.
So thank you very much. I recommend for all to come. Fabiana, please.
So thank you for this opportunity. And I think that will be an amazing event. And you will have a lot of amazing researchers and speakers. And so let's see you all there.
About the time, that the morning session may be a little bit early for people living in Brazil, but you can go on the channel and listen to it like 1 or 2 hours later. But the majority of the presentations will be in real time. But if you miss any of the sessions, no problem, no stress, because you can listen to it just immediately afterwards.
And I'll be there.
Yeah.
Me too.
Nice. And see you at the Connect, Fascia Connect.
Thank you very much. And let's be curious how it will shape our movement practice in the next few years. Yes. Because when we started with fascial movement, Johannes was a big part of that. We only did bouncing and swinging because that was all we knew. And then recently we added dampening and landing, but also explosive movements. And so each conference brings up new insights, and then people like you and me, we go out and apply it for the next couple of years. Yes. So I'm very curious to see how that will shape our applications.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you, Fabiana. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Simone, Caroline, Fabiana as well. And for all the people that are seeing us in the YouTube, Instagram, Zoom, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you soon, Robert. In March, we
Tudo
will be
bom.
there.
See you at
See you.
Fascia Connect.
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao.